comes to mind? The shot on Elo to win the series against the Cavs in '89? How about his iconic shrug game after hitting 6 threes in the first half of the '92 finals? Or is it his legendary flu game against the Jazz in the '97 finals? I can go on forever. MJ owns a handful of the greatest performances in NBA history. But in my opinion, Game 6 of the 1998 finals against the Utah Jazz stands as his masterpiece. In a decade of complete and utter dominance, Jordan had a chance to do what no one has done in modern NBA history. Capture a second three-peat and his 6th title in 8 years. But it wasn't gonna come easy. Despite being up 3-2 in the series, the pressure Jordan faced was suffocating. This was Chicago's last dance. Coach Phil Jackson was gone at the end of the season, and MJ's second retirement was looming. And to make matters worse, Scottie Pippen gets injured and leaves the court just minutes into Game 6. Everything was on MJ's shoulders. In this one game, Michael Jordan has a chance to do the impossible and solidify himself as the greatest to ever do it.
Yo, do y'all know how crazy it is to three-peat two different times? Three-peating once is already hard enough. Winning a championship in general is just hard. But the three-peat 2 different times, that's insane. I don't think that's ever gonna happen again.
The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship, and it's their 2nd three-peat.
That's crazy.
It's been over a quarter century since MJ's historical Game 6. So much has happened in the NBA since. So to understand the importance, the stakes, the sheer magnitude of this game, we have to go back even further. A selfish scorer, just a dunker, the Pistons' punching bag, the guy with all the talent, but no rings. That was the label thrown onto Michael Jordan for the first 6 seasons of his NBA career, until he shattered the narrative. In 1991, Mike and the Bulls finally broke through, capturing his first championship and Finals MVP against the team of the '80s, and it marked the start of a new age in the NBA, the Jordan era. In '92, he proved that he wasn't just a one-hit wonder. He hit Portland with a shrug, back-to-back titles, back-to-back Finals MVPs, and yet the man wanted more. In 1993, he did just that with his 3rd consecutive championship, feat that Magic, Bird, Kareem, and many other greats weren't able to pull off. In fact, no team had won 3 straight championships since the Celtics in the 60s. Jordan was already cemented among the game's elite, and apparently, that was enough. At 30 years old, right smack in the middle of his prime, MJ retired from basketball for a multitude of reasons. And you probably know the story. He leaves the game, plays baseball for a little while, gets the itch to return to basketball, and just like that, he's back. Or, in Michael's words, he made his return late in the '95 season, but his supporting cast just wasn't the same. The Bulls lost in the 2nd round to the Orlando Magic, and it set the stage for an incredible 1996 season. In his first full year back, MJ captured his 4th MVP as Chicago went 72-10, the greatest record in history at the time. And like he never left, Jordan was back on the mountaintop to capture his 4th ring. But to think the dude is satisfied would be crazy. In '97, he and the Bulls were poised for another run, and with a meeting against the Malone and Stockton-led Utah Jazz in the finals, MJ went into another dimension.
We're down to 5. Jordan putting moves on Russell. We're down to 2. Now to 1. Here's Jordan.
Yeah. Oh, MJ has so much aura, bro. I don't mean to glaze, but he has so much aura. I'm not gonna lie. I want to meet MJ one day. I can't cap. I do want to meet him. You know, everybody say every time they meet him for the first time, it look like he levitating and it's a glow and all that kind of stuff. I will be the judge of that. You know, once I meet him, I'll come back and tell y'all what it's like. You know, but let's continue.
3:30 this morning, Michael Jordan woke up with flu-like symptoms,
Flu game.
a stomachache and a headache, and he couldn't go
sick has been bad news for the opponent.
They turn it around and send it to Pippen. Oh, by Jordan. Jordan trying to slip it, and then pull back and hit. Jordan fires for Pippen backing Hornacek. Here's Jordan. Yes! Michael Jordan from straight away. Have won their fifth championship in the last 7 years.
An iconic buzzer beater to beat Utah in Game 1, and with the series tied at 2, the man entered Game 5 crippled by the flu, or food poisoning. And he still snapped. 38 points, 7 boards, 5 dimes, and 3 steals in the win.
38, 7,
He
and
wasn't
5.
human. Jordan's greatness was truly unshakable.
What the flu?
Back-to-back titles, 5 and 7 years, and a 5th Finals MVP. The NBA was at MJ's mercy, and another three-peat was officially on the horizon. But it didn't come without some pressure. Riding high off their 5th championship, Jordan and the Bulls got a reality check. Prior to the start of the 98 season, GM Jerry Krause told Phil Jackson that he can go 82-0 and he still won't return as coach the following season.
Dang.
The reason? Well, it's due to Jerry's fascination in starting a rebuild right in the middle of a dynasty. Once the news broke, Jordan made it clear that he won't play for anyone but Phil, hinting at retirement. Plus, the fact that he was in the final year of his contract made it official. This was the last dance for the Bulls' dynasty.
The last dance.
Like he has for most of his career, MJ used this as motivation. He averaged 28 points on the season and captured his 5th MVP. A great honor, but not the hardware he was looking for. In round 1 of the playoffs, the dude was scorching as he averaged 36 in a sweep over the Nets.
36?
And in round 2, Chicago flexed their dominance, manhandling the Hornets in 5 to set up an Eastern Conference Finals face-off against Reggie Miller and the Pacers. Chicago came out firing as they won games 1 and 2, but on the road in Indy, the Pacers answered in Game 3. And thanks to some late game heroics by Reggie Miller in Game 4, this series is tied at 2. The Bulls would answer at home, and then Indiana did the same to force a do-or-die Game 7. Just the second such game during the Bulls' dynasty. But Jordan didn't flinch.
We're gonna win Game 7. I never make promises. I don't make promises to my wife, but we will win Game 7.
No, that's crazy.
With the dynasty on the line, MJ stayed true to his word, pouring in 28 points to survive and keep the three-peat alive. Indiana pushed them to the edge, but their next opponent will be their greatest test, because they know them all too well.
The
It was
rematch.
the rematch. Jordan and his Bulls up against a two-headed monster in Utah, motivated by what happened last season. And Game 1 made that clear. Despite a 33-point outburst from MJ, the Jazz managed to escape with a 3-point overtime win to get one step closer to revenge. But bad news for them, Jordan took that loss personally. In Game 2, the man lit Utah's building on fire with a 37-point nuke, including
37 points? I know it might sound like I'm glazing, but like, bro, 37 points is crazy. You gotta admit, like, Game 2, after you lost the first game, that's a great response, MJ. I ain't gonna lie.
13 of those in the fourth quarter as the Bulls are headed back to Chicago.
Wait, what did he
with the
say?
Series. 13 of those in the building on fire with a 37-point nuke, including 13 of those in the fourth quarter
13 in
as
the
the
fourth.
Bulls are headed back to Chicago with the series tied. And it was home sweet home in Game 3 as they embarrassed the Jazz in a 42-point massacre. Yes, the largest winning margin in NBA Finals history, and Chicago goes up 2-1. With a chance to go up 3-1, Mike was electric once again with 34 points, including another double-digit fourth quarter. And for the second year in a row, they've put Utah on the brink of elimination. MJ can taste the champagne, but it would have to wait. Karl Malone was a wrecking ball in Game 5, smashing the Bulls for 39-9-5 in the win to avoid elimination,
39 is
pushing the
crazy.
series back to Utah for a Game 6. Jordan and the Bulls had a golden opportunity to clinch the three-peat at home. Instead, they now face a daunting Game 6 and potential Game 7 on the road. The pressure was mounting. A Game 7 with an older, injured, worn-down Bulls team is not ideal. It had to end now. MJ has to get his 6th in 6.
6 and 6.
MJ and the Bulls are back in Utah looking to put an end to this series and cap off their dynasty with a 6th and final championship. And as if the pressure on Jordan wasn't already sky high, it hit its peak just minutes into Game 6. On the first play of the night, Pippen throws down a two-handed slam and immediately grimaces. Scottie had been dealing with a back issue throughout the series, and this dunk completely handicapped him, putting an even bigger burden on Jordan. At the 7-minute mark, the man announces his arrival with a patented fadeaway over Stockton for his first bucket of the game. And just a minute later, he extends his range out to the left wing, lacing a triple to put Chicago up 7. MJ was starting to get a feel for the game, but right as he was, it went south. Laboring with that back injury, Pippen heads back to the locker room at the 5-minute mark of the first quarter, officially leaving Jordan all by his lonesome.
You left my goat by yourself.
He finished the quarter with a hezzy pull-up in Brian Russell's grill to tie it at 22. But other than that, it wasn't very pretty. 8 points on 3 of 8 shooting, getting outplayed by Karl Malone, who had 12 at the end of the frame. And with Scottie Pippen still in the locker room to start the second quarter, Jordan had to turn it on. And I think he sensed it.
Jordan, daylight for 3.
Hey! Empty the clip, MJ.
Inside around Anderson. Michael springs free and takes the lob from Kukoc. Jordan for 3. And there's his answer. It was Russell's first basket. Here's Michael. He's got 21. Jordan's the guy they want, even more so than usual. And that's why.
That was nasty.
Nasty footwork in the paint, a long-range triple, a lob at the cup, another 3 from the right wing, a tough jumper, and then another fadeaway to mark his 6th straight field goal made in this quarter. MJ was an inferno. Even at 35 years old, lacking some of the athleticism he used to have, the man was still able to take over games with his assassin-like shot making. But despite his sizzling 15-point second quarter to give him 23 at halftime, the Bulls still found themselves down 4. They needed a spark, and at the beginning of the third quarter, they got just that. Pippen was back for the start of the period, but you can tell he wasn't 100%. The dude was gonna be a decoy out there. At the 8-minute mark of the third, Jordan swishes home a midi to get Chicago within 4. But that wasn't the talking point of the quarter. Just minutes later, tempers start to flare as Malone and Rodman get into some sort of wrestling match.
What the hell?
And as that's going on, at the other end of the court, Brian Russell and MJ give each other a shot. Russell's pissed, but Mike is unfazed. He's got something in store for him a little bit later.
Jordan.
Oh, that was on Russell. That's
On the
funny.
next possession, Michael goes right at Russell and loses him with a filthy shimmy into a right shoulder fadeaway, and it's butter to put him up to 27 points on the night. But coming off his heater of a second quarter, the third was pretty underwhelming. Sitting at a solid 29 on the night, he put in just 6 in the frame on 2 for 6 shooting and 2 for 4 at the line. Fatigue seemed to be playing a serious factor. I mean, for context, the dude is in a deep postseason run for the 3rd straight season, and he hasn't missed a single game, regular season or playoffs, since he returned from retirement.
304
The sheer amount of miles on his legs seemed to be catching up to him.
Yeah, MJ was getting old, man. He was getting up there in age. You know, he was fatigued, he was tired. 304 games is insane, you know.
Considering his fatigue and Scottie's injury, MJ can't allow this series to go 7. It has to end now. To start the fourth quarter, he drives and fades off the block for a wet jumper to put him up to 33 points. His reaction? Ice cold. It's time to kill. A couple minutes later, he knocks down 2 free throws to get within 1, and on the very next possession, he finds his sweet spot in the mid-range and fills up the cup to give Chicago the lead, shooting his total up to 37 points. The clutch god was showing out. Then he disappeared. Midway through the quarter, MJ went cold, missing 3 straight field goals within a minute, all of which were short. A telltale sign that a player is fatigued since he can't get enough elevation on his jumper. This was worrisome. At the 3-minute mark, Mike launches a 3 and he's short yet again. Utah comes back down and Malone flares for a wide open jumper to put the Jazz up 4 with 2 minutes to go. It looked like this one was slipping through the Bulls' hands. Jordan has to dig deep. Off the Malone bucket, MJ comes back and attacks the rim. Brian Russell fouls him, and he catches his breath at the free throw line as he drains both shots to get Chicago within 2. Moments later, he relentlessly attacks the rim again, gets fouled again, and as he shoots these massively clutch free throws with 59 seconds to go, Dennis Rodman is so confident that he's gonna make them that he turns away from the rim and is talking to fans as Michael laces them. The game is tied at 83.
Yeah,
Make their
ice
way
in his
down the
veins.
court, and Stockton finds a weak spot in the defense. Karl Malone dots him out of the post. He lines up the seams and splashes a monster 3 to put Utah up with 41 seconds remaining. A heart stopper.
Oh my goodness,
Chicago
41
calls
seconds, 41
timeout
seconds.
and a game
Phil
7.
Jackson, man, this is crucial. I need you to draw up a great play now. You know, I see a clipboard. Hold on. Let me see the plays they were running. I can't see it all the way. You lucky. Let's go,
Less than a
MJ.
minute away. It was a 3-pointer that seemed to force Jordan and the Bulls into an inevitable Game 7 in Utah. But in reality, it set into motion a series of events that led to the crowning jewel of the Bulls' dynasty. Running on fumes with whatever energy he has left in the final 41 seconds, Michael Jordan, like he has his entire career, delivered with the single greatest sequence in sports history.
Michael working on Russell. Brings him to within 1.
Timeout foul, ref.
They scored within 4 seconds there. That's how quickly that changes now. Now it puts the pressure on the Jazz to score once again.
Jordan with 43.
43.
Ball is doubled. They swat at it and steal it. Here comes Chicago. 17 seconds. 17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan open.
Cash money.
Timeout, Utah. 5.2 seconds left. Michael Jordan running on fumes with 45 points.
If this was in a movie, you wouldn't believe it. The greatest player in the history of the game with the ball down by 1 breaks his defender's ankles and perfectly swishes home the jumper to get his team 5 seconds away from their second three-peat and 6th championship in 8 years. But it wasn't just the shot either. It was the tough banker off glass into a crucial steal on the opposing team's best player that led to the iconic shot. It was absolute perfection. In the final 41 seconds, no other player on the Bulls touched the ball. It was all MJ. With all the pressure of this being the last gasp of Chicago's dynasty and Jordan's final moments in a Bulls uniform, he sealed it in storybook fashion with his 45th point of the night.
Do that say 6.6 left on the clock? Nah, that gotta be a coincidence, right? Nah, that's crazy. Yo, this snapshot is actually iconic, man. I ain't gonna lie. Everybody in the stands knew he was gonna make this shot. It's like, man, it's inevitable. Just let it happen, man. You can't even fight it.
It is, in my opinion, the greatest moment in the history of basketball. But I must mention that there's still 5 seconds left. Utah's coming out of their timeout down by 1. One shot can send this series to a 7th game. Either we're going 7 or Michael Jordan's final moment in a Chicago uniform is a masterpiece.
Let's go D up.
Clippers on it. Behind the screen.
Clamp. That's brick.
A piece of it. It comes off.
That's it.
The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship, and it's their second three-peat.
That's crazy, man.
Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I led you to believe it was easy when it wasn't. Maybe I made you think my highlights started at the free throw line and not in the gym. Maybe I made you think that every shot I took was a game winner, that my game was built on flash and not fire. Maybe it's my fault that you didn't see that failure gave me strength, that my pain was my motivation. Maybe I led you to believe that basketball was a God-given gift and not something I worked for every single day of my life. Maybe I destroyed the game.
Or maybe you're just making excuses.
You're just making excuses.
Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead.
The Chicago Bulls have won their first ever NBA championship. Chicago Bulls have won
That's number 2.
the NBA championship for the second straight season. Chicago Bulls
3.
3 straight NBA championships. The Chicago Bulls have won the 96th NBA championship. Bulls have won their 5th championship in the last 7 years.
The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship,
That's crazy,
and
man.
it's their second three-peat.
1998 NBA Finals MVP Michael Jordan.
Six rings, 6 finals MVPs, the greatest player of all time. No debate, no discussion. We finna get out of here, man. If you enjoyed that reaction video, make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe. And I'm out of here, man. Michael Jordan is the undisputed GOAT, man. And he got 5 regular season MVP. I mean, the accolades just go on and on and on. 2 3-peats. I don't think that ever will be done. And I don't think that's going to ever be done again. I'm going to be honest. Like, especially in today's NBA. Ain't happening. But I'm out of here, man. Make sure y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day. And I'm out of here.